Alrighty guys, hello and welcome back to the show. So today we're going to be going over a series of games that I played actually with Spikey Noob, showcasing Nomads as well as the SCTA, or the Supreme Commander Total Annihilation mod. And so as we're playing through this, we pit the Total Annihilation factions as well as Nomads against the Supreme Commander factions. So whole lot of fun I had playing with Spikey Noob. Spikey Noob actually was one of the guys that I played against in the Teammate and Me tournament that you got in both in the very first round as well as the finals. So if you guys haven't seen that, I'll link it down in the description below. I will also link down in the description as the game is just kicking off here and factories are being built, etc. But also linked in the description below will be the link to the cast. So this was cast by Harzer99 and Dragon. I can't remember how you actually pronounce that. I cannot remember who the fourth guy was, but he's one of the bigger modders in the FAF community as well. So I will link the Twitch VOD down in the description below. They talk about how they actually built the mod, how they actually built out Nomads, how they built out the SCTA mod. I believe Dragon is one of the admins or the primary guys that builds out that particular mod. So I will link that VOD down in the description below. Everybody's super cool. Andrani has probably the most sexy voice I've ever heard. And then Harzer being, kind of a more pro FAF player. And then Dragon has been instrumental in organizing the RTS triathlon and herding all of us cats and keeping us where we're supposed to go when we're supposed to be there. So getting into introducing the players in this game, you have myself in the bottom side of the map. I'm actually playing as who was I playing as? I was playing as the core. That's right. So I was playing as the core, which are kind of like the Siren a little bit. They have a lot of stealth as well as some other kind of more sneaky tactics in their factions. And then Spikey is in the northern corner playing as the UEF, going first land. One thing to note in Supreme Commander, or in Total Annihilation, and as such in the Supreme Commander Total Annihilation port, is instead of having all land units condensed into one factory, in Total Annihilation you have this broken out. So you have Kabats and then you have vehicles. Kabats are well, they're bots, but usually they have a little bit higher mobility. They can climb steeper terrain, and they're a little bit faster. And then and they're also cheaper. And then vehicles are usually more expensive, but they pack more of a punch. They move a little bit slower. They have more HP. So at the T1 stage, if you're playing a Total Annihilation faction, you have a little bit more. You have a couple more options at your disposal. Spikey is just playing vanilla UEF. In this mod, I believe that the UEF has been tweaked very slightly to be matched against the Total Annihilation factions, but the Total Annihilation factions were really the ones that were kind of taken and then overhauled, because Total Annihilation, similar to Beyond All Reason, was built in a different way with very few factories in mind. In Supreme Commander, you build like a shitload of factories. So I'm going to jump this up to +4 as we're moving through this. So Spikey had a pretty good raid on an expanding engineer or a construction vehicle. Also got a bomber out as well. This is one of the banes of my existence, right? But really more what I want to talk about is instead of casting this game like I would normally cast it, I want to talk about the mods and the factions that are showcased within this 5-game series that I played with Spikey. I really enjoyed a lot of these factions, a lot of these mods, and I think that they deserve a little bit of love from the community. As far as, especially whenever we're breaking these down, I'm actually going to bump up this speed a little bit more. So I went very heavy vehicles this game. The comm is kind of similar. The only downside is that the comm for the Total Annihilation factions does not have any upgrades. So you're not able to get like gun speed and range or anything like that. You can get those on the Supreme Commander factions though. But the vanilla comm, if I'm remembering correctly, does pack a little bit more of a punch than the Supreme Commander commanders do. Supreme Commander commanders. Mouthful for you. Bomber did a number on my power grid though, like absolutely destroyed it. Another thing to highlight about the Total Annihilation factions is everything is blinking here for whatever reason. I think that's just the fact that the game speed is up. But there's two different types of power that you can build. So there are wind generators and then there are solar power plants. I believe wind generators are kind of objectively better. They're a little bit cheaper, but they don't generate quite as much power. And then solar generators, if I remember correctly, well, actually, I take it back. Wind generators, I believe, only take energy to build. But as you can see down in the bottom left of the screen, you can see that their energy output fluctuates. And that's to account for various amounts of wind strength. Whereas solar is not going to have that kind of fluctuation, but solar is also a little bit more expensive. One thing I did really notice about the TA factions is it seemed like the T1 units were stronger than the Supreme Commander T1 units, their equivalents. And some of that is, I think, tied to the fact that in the Supreme Commander Total Annihilation mod, you have to build 12 T1 factories to unlock T2. So I think that the T1 units are a little bit buffed out to help account for that. And they are stronger. So like your, I think they're Raiders. Yeah, the Raider is the T1 medium tank, are a little bit stronger than the Strikers, which are the medium tank for the UEF. I also noticed their artillery seemed to be really good as well. But in this game, my comm gets a little bit surrounded here. I get a really, really good D-gun shot off. The D-gun and the overcharge works a little bit different. D-gun kind of fires in a line, which is really cool. Also kind of helps to offset the fact that the Total Annihilation Commander doesn't get any upgrades. And then here, Spikey brought in his comm. And I kind of run his comm to ground here. I was bringing in this little force up here that was taking out this expansion. His comm does pick off most of my T1 units, and there are a couple pillars that are in pursuit. But this little force comes in back behind, and I'm able to go ahead and win the game. So, super cool mod. We'll go ahead and load into the next game, and there are other things that get showcased from the Supreme Commander Total Annihilation mod and Total Annihilation as a whole that I think you guys will really enjoy, that pay homage to Supreme Commander's dad, so to speak, Total Annihilation. So I'll see you guys in the next replay. Okay, getting into the second game here. You once again have myself playing as a Total Annihilation faction. I played against the core once again. And then this time you actually have Spikey playing as the Nomads. Ignore the factions up here in the SCTA mod. It doesn't matter which faction you pick at the main menu. You pick it from a little box that drops down. But anyway, bumping up the speed again to look at some of the interesting things from the various factions. I imagine a lot of you guys have seen Nomads before. Nomads is the 5th faction to be added to Supreme Commander. Super cool faction, and have a lot of things that you can really abuse, I think, in the faction. One of them is the fact that their labs actually hover on the water, as well as their scouts. So that caused me some problems this game. Another thing that caused me some problems this game is, if you look at my power, I was like power stalling out the wazoo because I went an air factory first, and in SCTA, that does not work at all to build, because then I went straight for air constructors, and air constructors, similar to aircraft in Supreme Commander, cost a bajillion power. So I kind of had a little panic moment here and built a shitload of wind generators. But that being said, this is one of the coolest things about Supreme Commander Total Annihilation and Total Annihilation is that you can build flying constructors. So they have nowhere near as much build power as a regular engineer. As you can see, this is, you know, +4 sim speed, and that mass extractor is really not getting created that fast. But it really allows you to get places really quickly with your constructors. And so as long as you can spam enough of them out, you can do a really, really good job of expanding around the map. Those of you guys that play Planetary Annihilation will be probably pretty familiar with this. Air constructors are a really, really good way to grab perimeter mexes or perimeter mass extractors, or I guess metal extractors, since this is TA in the game. So I really tried to abuse these, just sending like a ton of them out there. As you can see though, I'm like, this is fine, everything is fine. I thought that I was overflowing mass and power because I didn't have enough build power out, which was one of the big downsides of going for air constructors, is they don't have that much build power. So it's pretty easy for you to overproduce or over grab resources. So I started spamming up a bunch of naval factories to compensate for it. Another cool thing about the Total Annihilation factions is you might notice that my fighters are shooting at the ground, which is super cool. So their interceptors, the T1 interceptors, can ground fire, can fire against the ground. It's not very good, but they can do it. They are also really, really good at anti-air. That being said, they're way more expensive than your standard T1 interceptors from the Supreme Commander factions. But it's a really nice added benefit being able to have your interceptors shoot and harass ground units as well, which is really, really nice. You might also notice that frigates do have torpedoes, or they have depth charges. So kind of similar to the Exodus class. A lot of the multi-use, though, within the Total Annihilation factions comes at the price of additional mass costs or additional energy costs. Like most units in the Total Annihilation mod are more expensive than their Supreme Commander counterparts. So you really have to do a good job of managing your economy, and anytime you have units die, it does mean that you end up losing a good amount more. So in this, again, using interceptors, because if you have a lot of interceptors, like you can use them as bombers. So you don't have to sit them around just waiting for a snipe on your commander. You can use them offensively. You can also use them in naval engagements as well, which is super helpful. As you can see, like they're absolutely taking these frigates apart. And even going up here, they'll do battle with mobile anti-air guns. And I mean, they're not going to win, but they are able to take out one of them. And so, I mean, normally you would have interceptors just get, you know, shredded by mobile AA, and there's nothing that they can do back. But in this particular instance, your interceptors can fight back, which I think makes them which I think gives them a huge advantage, even at their additional cost. So moving in here with the Navy, subs, the Snake submarines, I think they were called Lurkers. Oh no, wait, that's the ARM submarines, but the Navy is really, really good. The Enforcer T1 frigates as well as the T1 submarines do a really good job of taking out the naval facilities. Gun upgrade coming in there for Spikey Noob. But he doesn't really have a whole lot of map control at this point. I've taken the southern island as well as the northern island and my safer island as well. And I think I was building construction ships here, or construction ships pretty soon to go for an advanced naval factory. Yep, there it is. So we started on that now. This is the other thing that I wanted to kind of highlight that Dragon was pretty unhappy about, but has, I believe, balanced and patched. So you'll notice Spikey's commander is going into the water. My Navy is going to respond here pretty soon. Eventually. I don't remember if I had scouted or if I was just going to go take out this mechs. But I found his commander, and look at this. So this is normal sim speed, by the way. The subs go in, depth charges go in, and look at how fast that commander melts. Oh, that is super cool. I didn't realize that units got sucked into the singularity like that. That is awesome. But anyway, the T1 subs are very strong. I'm not really sure whether that's a DPS miscalculation or what, but they were very, very strong. So going into I'm not going to show you guys all the games that we played, but there was one other game that I wanted to highlight that shows, I think, some of the really interesting things about nomads. So I'll see you guys in that replay in 1 second. Okay, last game that we're getting into in this particular video. So in the northern half of the map, you have myself playing nomads. This is a faction I am not at all familiar with. I think I played it like twice, maybe, before this tournament. And then you have Spikey down in the bottom half of the map, who is going for, he's playing ARM, I believe, going for first air. Big mistake, bud. I could have told you that last game. Going first air. That's gonna absolutely destroy your power. I kind of want to see it happen. We bump this up to +3. Power taking a nosedive. What is he making? Wait. You can make normal bots. Oh my god, my life is ruined. Okay. Apparently you can make normal construction bots out of air factories. I guess I completely spaced in the middle of that gargantuan power stall in the last game that I was running into. But bumping this up to +5. This is a map called Comet Catcher. I believe every map that we played on in this game was a Total Annihilation map. So he's coming over with a bomber and just being generally an asshole. Taking out some of my power grid. I got some mobile AA out. The mobile AA, the Baranger, is pretty good as far as mobile AA goes for the nomads. And then it was just a matter of trying to grab as many of these mechs as I can, because there is like very little reclaim on this map. As far as rocks, I believe that there are, if I can remember where they are. Actually, no, there's literally no reclaim on this map because it's a TA map. So reclaim, I guess, wasn't a thing in that game, unless you were reclaiming Rex. But grabbing a bomber, he's also got, I believe, an Avenger. No, Freedom Fighter. That's right. That's the TA, or the Total Annihilation Fighter for the ARM. Now moving out to the middle though. And what I thought was really, really cool about the nomads in this particular game was, let me see if they're in here out yet. Let me bump this down to 0. Got an Eclipse, medium tank, land scout. No more. Okay, they're not out yet. Bump it up. Oh yeah, here we go. So these, super strong. The Marksman Tank Destroyer. You just look at them go. So the reason why they are so strong is the Marksman Tank Destroyer is, it's kind of like an artillery with a really, really high reload. So if you go and watch the casts that are done by Andrani and Harzer and Dragon, they talk about some of the units within the nomads, but a lot of the units have multiple purposes. And one of the units that has multiple purposes is the mobile AA. So the mobile AA also acts as your artillery. which means that there's an additional unit that the Nomads can have, this tank destroyer. And the tank destroyer has very long range, as well as, I believe, every shot does 300 damage. So you can watch these tank destroyers absolutely eviscerate these warriors, the infantry Kabats, as well as these medium tanks. But the downside to these tank destroyers is they have a 10-second reload time, but each shot does do 300 damage. So that's kind of the way that you balance it out. So for this game, knowing that, I knew that the tank destroyers were really strong. Like, they had that mega high alpha strike damage on a really high reload time. I mixed in a lot of them into my army. So I think I went 4 tanks, 2 tank destroyers, and then 1 AA/artillery, which is a little different than what I would normally do in a game. Usually I would go a little bit heavier on the medium tanks. But what I wanted to do was scout his comm and then drop a bunch of tank destroyers on his face. And then hopefully annihilate him. We'll see how that ends up going. So I've got this little army right here that is skirmishing. Found his comm. Gonna move in there with my commander. I love the Nomads sound effects. They just sound like so concussive. Just it's great. I also like the color scheme. I'm a huge fan of black. Everything is black. It's great. But my comm is going to mop up a bunch of these warriors. So he went for infantry Kabats. You can see him use the D gun right there. So you got that line. But this is where you can really see the tank destroyers go in. So look at how much damage these tank destroyers are actually doing here. Just huge amounts of alpha strike. Yeah, they have a huge reload time. But as long as you have enough of them, I think I've got 4 or 5 of them. That is a ton of damage. So I wanted to do this to talk about some of the really, really cool mods that are happening within the Supreme Commander community. I really hope to see more Nomads games hosted, more Supreme Commander Total Annihilation games hosted. It's a these are both super fun mods. Spikey and I both had a great time within this game. I think we ended up, we played 6 games. I think I won 4 of them. He won 2 of them. These were the 3 that I had picked out that had really cool things to showcase from these various factions. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure that you go and watch Andrani, Harzer, and Dragon's cast of the various games. They talk also a lot about the development cycle for the various mods in between games, and show some of the model development and things like that that a lot of people behind the scenes are working really hard on to deliver to you guys. So make sure you go and check that out. I'll have it linked down in the description below. And I really hope to see more SCTA games, as well as Nomad games. If you guys would like, you can join my Discord server. I'm going to try and host some of these games in the future. And I'll drop invites down in our invite channel. The Discord server is also linked down in the description below if you guys want to join. There's several of us that are pretty live within the game that play a good amount of games. So come on in, join the fun. Anyway, I will go ahead and cut the video there. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next piece.